Today's headline is Fate of a Bandit, Story of a War with Mexico. The subheadline says, Thrilling End to a Famous Band of Robbers, a race for life between a guerrilla and a dragoon, burning of Tualpan. It says, In our war with Mexico, our army and supply trains were continually harassed by the bands of guerrillas that infested the roads. Of all the guerrilla chiefs, there was none bolder or more cruel than the soldier priest Padre Juarrata. On more than one occasion, he had made attacks on our men with a black flag at the head of his band of followers. This celebrated band consisted of upwards of 1,000 desperately brave men, well drilled, and who were acknowledged to be equal in horsemanship to any body of men in the world. The majority of them had been robbers in the mountain passes for years previous to the commencement of the war. They were dreaded by their own law-abiding citizens, even more than by our army. Their usual mode of warfare was to keep in the rear or in the flanks of our train, and cut down all the stragglers they could reach. If any poor soldier, broken down, footsore and weary, should drop behind his command, his fate was sealed. These rangers of the mountains showed no mercy and took no prisoners. Through their spies, they would learn in what part of a train the specie and valuables were located, then waited some mountain defile where the roads were so narrow that it would be difficult to send relief to that part of the train attacked. They would swoop down upon the unprotected wagons, murder the teamsters, take what valuables they could carry off, and if they had time, burn the wagons and mutilate the dead. General Scott concluded to use every effort to destroy Padre Juarrata and his merciless band. Early in February 1848, General Joe Lane, justly styled the Marion of the army, left the city of Mexico with about 500 men, consisting of 4 companies of the 3rd Dragoons, under command of President Polk's brother, Major William H. Polk, and 4 companies of Texas Rangers, under command of Colonel Jack Hayes, the celebrated Indian fighter. The command was in fighting trim. There was not a wagon or pack animal, not even an ambulance in the column. They marched out to meet the guerrillas at their mountain homes, and it was to be a fight until death. Our marching was mostly done in the night. We rested in some out-of-the-way place in the daytime, hidden from sight as much as possible. On the 21st of February, we struck the trail of the enemy. We heard they were in force at Tehuantepec. They numbered over 1,000 lancers, under the command of Padre Juarrata and Colonel Martinez. On that evening, we went into camp at sundown. At midnight, we resumed our march toward the enemy's camp. Just as day was breaking on the morning of the 22nd, we arrived at the outskirts of the town and were received with a royal salute, for bullets whistled from nearly every house. The fighting was hand to hand and from house to house. All who refused to surrender were shot down without parleying. In the fight, a guerrilla attempted to escape on horseback. A dragoon was soon at his heels. Then it became a race for life. The dragoon's horse was strong and tireless, of good Kentucky stock. The guerrilla's horse was small and wiry, a real Mustang, and so well trained that his rider could turn him around so suddenly that he would lose but little of his speed. The race was up a road about 50 feet wide, bounded by a high stone wall on either side, so there was no chance for turning either to the left or to the right. The horses were evenly matched for speed, and after a long chase the dragoon concluded to give the guerrilla a parting shot and return to his command. He raised his carbine and fired, missing his man, but still kept on in his mad race, never thinking of danger to himself or horse. He dropped his carbine and drew his pistol from its holster, intending to make one more shot. Just as he had his pistol fairly drawn, he was surprised to see the guerrilla wheel his horse suddenly around and with lance in hand come charging down on him. The movement was so sudden there was no time to think, or to turn if he wished to. All that he could see was a horse with a man on it and a lance aimed at his breast. All there was to do was to fire the only shot he had. This he did, and by a lucky chance, the bullet struck the guerrilla between the eyes, and he was a dead man. In the excitement, perhaps it was caused by the flutter of the flag on the lance, the dragoon's horse reared, and the lance that was intended for the rider was buried in the horse's breast, and the horse and man fell in one confused heap. The guerrilla dead, the dragoon insensible, and the life-blood of his horse pouring out of the wound made by the guerrilla's lance. After some time, the dragoon recovered enough to make his way back to his comrades. He related to them his thrilling adventure. During the fight, the town had caught fire, and after the enemy had been either killed, taken, or scattered, our boys became firemen and successfully battled the flames and saved the town from the utter destruction it deserved, in consequence of it being a robber's den. Padre Juarrata escaped, but his two ablest lieutenants, Montano and Martinez, were killed, together with more than 150 of his men. We had many prisoners, and Padre Juarrata's guerrillas were never heard of again on the road. After the battle was over and the flames subdued, a few comrades went out on the road to see the place where the guerrilla had met his fate. To their horror, they found a band of hogs feasting on the bodies of both horse and man. They drove the hogs away and reverentially placed the body of the dead guerrilla on the top of one of the stone walls that lined the road and covered it with a blanket. He was a brave man and deserved a better fate. This story came from the great state of Illinois, being reported in the Oak Park Reporter of April 15th, 1892. Thank you for joining us today. If you want to continue to uncover all of America's lost and forgotten history, then remember before you leave to hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and remember to like and comment below. And we will see you next time on Americana Archives.